Hello, my most amazing artists. How are you today? Ready to create. Today I'm going to do one of the squares on the virtual art bingo. Each week I plan on doing one of the squares so you have an example and some tips and tricks that I can provide you with what you have at home. So today I'm going to do the square that says, find something at home that you can make into paint. Coffee, tea, markers with water, dirt, food coloring, etc., and create an artwork. I've gathered for you a couple tips and tricks of ways that I can make paint with things that I found around my house. I have things like markers, I have tea, I have food coloring, and lots of other things that you'll see in this video coming on how to make paint, how to make outdoor chalk paint, and ways that you can use things if you don't have a paintbrush. Okay, so let's get started. First things I'm going to talk about is what you can use if you do not have a paintbrush. Brushes from some art kits that I've had. So I have some brushes here, but there are some things that you can use around the house. You can use a pencil, you could stamp with one end, you could probably dip the tip into paint and draw with it. I have a cotton ball that you can use. I have a Q-tip you can use to dip in paint and draw with. I have some cardboard tubes that you can stamp. And if you have like a cheap little spray bottle, you can put some of your liquid paint that you made inside the spray bottle and you can spray your artwork. So I'm going to put those aside and show you one of the first techniques that I have using markers. So I have some old Crayola markers here. If you do not want to dip any of your markers in the water, there's two methods. So I have a dried out marker here. If your markers are super dried out, you can use water. So I have this little container of water, a jar of water, could be a cup of water. You can take your dried out marker and remove the cap, and you can just dip the tip into the water. And when you let it sit there, the ink from the dried out marker will then dye the water a color, and it can turn into some watercolor paint. Again, if you don't have a brush, you can use the tip of your marker as your brush. The longer you let the marker sit in the water, the darker the paint is going to be. Now this is the first option of using markers. This is only if you really have dried out markers that don't work on paper anymore. This is a good way to recycle and revive them. So I'm going to use the marker tip just to draw some lines like paint on my paper. If you have a brush, you can dip your brush then inside, and it will get darker as you let the marker sit inside. Okay. The other option for markers is if you do not want to have the markers fully immersed in the water, you can take some foil or plastic, like a plastic bag, and you can make some color swatches on the foil. Once you have the color swatches on the foil, you can take your little jar of water. I'm going to get another little jar of water here. And you can use your painting tools to then use this as a palette. So I will dip my brush in the water because we know our brush needs water to activate the colors. And I'm going to just swish my brush on some of the colors, and now it picks it up like paint. To clean my brush, I just use the water. I'm going to go right into my next color and add to my painting. Swish, 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 drag, 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 and now I'm going to swirl, swirl, swirl to add more paint. So there are some simple ways to use the markers if you have markers at home. One with dried out markers, putting it in some water to make liquid watercolors. This would be something that would be cool to put inside the spray bottle so that way you can spray it on your paper. A way that you can use your markers, keep them fresh, and have them as paint. The next technique I'm going to show you is using food coloring. Okay. You can use some food coloring to put inside your water, almost like the marker. What's cool with the food coloring is that you can put different colors together to make new colors. So now that I have this really awesome blue, I can add a color to change it. Now I'm going to dip my brush inside and paint with that color. Again, the more food coloring that you put in, the darker the color will be. Let's try painting with some other tools. Here's that stick I found from outside. If I dip my stick inside, it uses a point and it makes a very skinny line. I'm going to add some more food coloring inside to see how dark it will look. Ooh, much darker line. I like the way that's looking. Again, you can use other materials to paint, like a Q-tip. You can dip the Q-tip in the water and stamp and draw with what you have. Stamping with a pencil. Tip doesn't work as well, but you can stamp with the back. Let's try a cotton ball. Ooh, a cotton ball would be good for filling up big areas of your paper. Cool. And if you have any tubes, you can dip and stamp. All right, so we've gone over how to use markers two ways. You can submerge your dried out marker in some water and you can pour that into a spray bottle. You can use good markers on a foil to make it like a palette, and this, once it's dry, you can still use this. You just need the water to activate the color, so that can be saved and used again. Let's talk about some other things that might be a little bit different. So we have some tea here. If we wanted to use some tea, you would have some warmer or hot water, and you would dip the tea bag into the water, kind of like the marker. So you would let the tea soak into the water and then you would paint with that as well. If you don't have any tea at home, you might have Kool-Aid or drink mixes. So you could pour a little bit of a drink mix inside the water and you can paint with that as well. So let's see. Ooh, it smells like strawberry watermelon. Yum. You can paint with a drink mix or Kool-Aid. Or even if you have Skittles, you can put Skittles in the water and then all the dye from the Skittles will go into the water and you can paint with those different colors. It'd be really fun to sort the Skittles into the rainbow colors and then make a rainbow paint. And then you could also put different Skittles together to make new colors, kind of like the food coloring. Some ways to make paint that you can use outdoors. You could use flour and water or cornstarch and water. Now to do this, you would want to make a lot of paint because you would be painting outside. So to be painting outside, you would probably use bigger dishes or bigger jars. You can make a lot of the paint and split it up and then make it into different colors, but I'm just going to show you a little sample of what that might look like. So the flour, I'm going to put a little bit of water in the flour and I'm going to mix it up. Until it's all mixed in and you get a smooth consistency. Once you have that smooth consistency, then you can go ahead and add some coloring. Maybe you've made a color from your marker, you want to pour that inside there. Maybe you want to use some of the drink mix coloring that you added. If you have some of the tea mix or the food coloring. I'm going to add some of my watered food coloring so that way I'm not wasting any of my food coloring. I'm going to add some of that into there to make blue paint. So this paint has a different kind of consistency that you would find, it's more of like a textured paint. So if you wanted to add some texture into your artwork, you can mix the flour and the water with the food coloring and see what you get there. Or what you can do is you could probably freeze this in an ice cube tray and then use water to activate it to use the color. So similar to the flour, to do the chalk paint for outside, you would do the same kind of steps. Equal parts cornstarch and water. Mix it until it's nice and smooth, so you don't have a clump of cornstarch at the bottom. You can mix that with a spoon, you can mix it with a popsicle stick, you can mix it with a paintbrush. If you feel like there's too much water and not enough cornstarch, you can add some more as you see. It should almost be like chalky. So I'm going to add a bit more cornstarch because I might want to paint a sun later. And I'm going to do a nice purple because these are my two favorite colors. Maybe I'll make a flower too. Mix it with my stick because I can use the stick to paint too. All right, friends, here are some easy ways that you can make paint if you don't have paint at home. And I hope that you try out some of the tips and tricks that I've given you in this video. If you tried anything that I showed in the video, or if any artwork you make at home, I'd love for you to share with me. There are a few ways that you can send me some of your artwork. You can email it to my school email. You could send it to my Twitter account. You can send it to the Silvia School Twitter account. You can send it to your classroom teacher and ask them to forward it to me. Or you can put it on my Google Classroom that I'm in the middle of working on. So once you get the code for Google Classroom, you can upload your pictures there and I can respond. So I hope you stay creative, and I miss you so much. And I'm very sad that I can't see you during this time, but I really can't wait for you to show me some of the ways that you make paint at home. Bye.